Welcome to The First Turn. I'm your host, Hyena, and today, Llama and I are talking about This Week in Warhammer. If you like what you hear, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share, or let us know if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about. Alright, let's get to it.
Welcome to The First Turn. I'm Hyena.
I'm Llama.
And today we're back after Nova is wrapped. The last couple of weeks we had some... call it an old episode. We had stretched over a couple weeks.
Yes.
Mostly because we had made some claims and some predictions about what we thought we were going to see at Nova, and those really did not pan out. And I feel bad about that.
So do I. Like we did our usual. Let's predict what we'll see at the preview event, and then it turned out there was no preview event.
And it turned out what preview event?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Because there wasn't one. I mean, I was going back and looking to see, like, am I crazy? Did they not actually make an announcement about a preview event for Nova this year? And it's like, I don't use this word. I think we tricked ourselves or gaslighted ourselves as a community into thinking there was going to be a preview event, even though there was no announcement made.
There
we
was
just kind of assumed, right?
Yeah, there was no official announcement made because they announce when they're going to do it.
Right.
And there was no official announcement made. In fact, the only thing on the Games Workshop website we found about a preview event at Nova was from last year.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that earlier, and this isn't to throw anyone under the bus because there's egg on our face. We assumed there'd be one. But the collection of rumors kind of all end up in one place right now. And then it gets talked about in that one place, and then it does the rounds on social media.
Right.
And so the expectations people had were not, is there going to be a preview event? It was, what do we expect to see at the preview event?
I think Nova last year was actually the announcement of the Skaven Tide box for 4th edition AOS buy.
It might have been.
Which is why I thought we were so sure we were going to see something, because it was a major reveal.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't that, but it was expansion stuff to the 4th edition Stormcast stuff. Because I remember the new, the opposite, Executioner character for Stormcast, who's got like the axe, the one that comes in the starter box. They came out with an alternate sculpt of him with the greatsword.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that one was showed off at Nova as like second wave. But that's a pretty big preview, and just the fact that it was nothing preview wise this year was a little surprising. I mean, they had another event that if you weren't expecting preview, was probably fun to go to and participate in, but it wasn't what we were thinking, you know.
So it's interesting as a community. The rumors don't all come from one place right now, but they kind of tend to gather in one place, and then they get shown off. And then the expectations of the community become aligned with those rumors.
Right.
And that's what they said is, what will we see at this preview event? And then the rumors when there wasn't one was that, GW pulled the plug on it.
Right.
And there was never confirmation they were going to have one. There was no proof that they had one and then pulled the plug on it. So
they weren't being cheeky. They were like, we're going to have something.
No.
And they're like, oh, it's a preview. We know it's a preview. And then they're like, here's laser tag.
Right.
And a PvP tournament for Space Marine 2.
Right.
And it's like, okay, this isn't a preview at all.
Yeah.
Like, they did say specifically we'll have hands-on experience with new models, but I mean, like, you were there and you didn't see anything like that.
I didn't see it, and so I think it was actually an invite-only group of painters and content creators who were invited to a specific thing where they got to touch new models.
Right.
But that's not new. They've done that at Warhammer events in Nottingham, where they've flown people out just to touch new stuff.
One of the events they had was at Adepticon maybe one year. They actually had painted models in their case at the... it was when the Crew came out, maybe. They had painted models at their store location on the floor that were like, whoa, these are the models that just got announced.
They did that. They did that also one year when Chaos Space Marine Havocs were released in plastic on 40 mils. They had painted new ones there that weren't out yet. But it sounds like there were some prominent content creators who are in the partner program got invited to a specific event where they got to touch new stuff for Warhammer TV. So as far as the opening of Nova, though, Games Workshop did have an event. Their store was open on Wednesday night, and then they did a night with Games Workshop where Mike Brandt and a couple other people were up there, which that was neat because Mike Brandt was one of the founders of Nova itself.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and now he works with Games Workshop, so him being there was great. And they did a Warhammer trivia where there were prizes. They did a beer tasting where a local brewer brought some of their wares, and then they had a Space Marine 2 tournament. So all of that happened on opening night.
But you had said that there was, kind of how we get information now is through very limited channels.
It is.
Right? So like before we had Warhammer Community, which can you remember the time before Warhammer Community?
Right.
That sucked.
For those who remember.
It was bad. Like there was no communication from the company whatsoever.
No.
Really. They weren't on socials. They didn't have that. The only things we got were rumors and news through like Bell of Lost Souls. I remember it was one of the bigger sites.
Or Warseer.com. Remember that? The forum.
Yeah.
And it was like, a couple of people, Harry, Hastings, those individuals were always trusted.
Yep.
Nobody knew how they got their information, but
now we've got Warhammer Community, and they announced like the actual official stuff. But I think what ended up happening was we rely on the official release schedules and stuff from Warhammer Community, but there's always more going on behind the scenes that we don't get official announcements on, and so we have to rely on things like Spiky Bits is a big one.
That's a big one. Yep.
Where that's where you get the real news.
Yeah.
The stuff they're not telling you about. And you take it for gospel, right? And so if something is wrong there, not saying that they started it, right? I'm not saying that at all.
No.
But I do remember there was an announcement saying, hey, this is what we expect to see. And then that turned into, hey, there's a preview event. Hey, here's what we're going to see at the preview event according to reliable sources. And then now that it's guaranteed we're going to have a preview event, what do we think we're going to see?
Right.
And so it's like, it's a trickle down thing, and then you don't look at the source and make sure that it was accurate or right, or you kind of make an assumption, and then you look stupid a little bit. I mean, I'm talking about us.
Yeah,
right?
we did.
Like we thought, like, yeah, sure, totally gonna be a preview event.
When I was there, I started to, once I saw how it was unfolding, I started to feel stupid. Like,
and so, I mean, it sucks, and we would have loved to see something, but it just didn't pan out this time, and I think our expectations were in the wrong place because there was never any kind of real announcement or real confirmation about it. So that was unfortunate.
But what they did show us after, and Nova, by the way, was great. If you get the chance to go. It's still like small-ish to mid-size. There were approximately 4,200, 4,300 attendees. And it's all miniatures. That's all it is.
I mean, you'd think with where it's located in DC, I mean, you've got like kind of a tri-state area around it. Kind of that part of the East Coast it's a very small area. I mean,
and it's dense.
Right. And so there's a lot of people within an hour and a half drive of DC. That's a lot of people. The fact that it was only 4,200 is a little surprising to me, honestly. But I mean, I guess with it being DC, it's a little weird because there's no actual local scene. There's no local stores. I think at DC.
So I've been out to DC a few times this year, and it's interesting. Is like the gaming scene. There's gamers there, but the miniature scene itself is surprisingly not big. There's not a lot of stores that feature it. Like the Baltimore area has them,
right,
which isn't far away.
I mean, the first Games Workshop store I went to and got my first models was in a mall
Glen Burnie, right?
Well, so my dad lived in Glen Burnie.
Okay.
But they had a Warhammer store in the new mall they opened back when I was a kid. I'm dating myself a little bit here. Yep. It's called Arundel Mills. I think it was in Hanover. I think it was Hanover. And it was this huge mall. To walk the ring of the mall, it was like a mile kind of thing. And they had a Games Workshop store right across from their like really cool, fancy movie theater. It was like Egyptian themed. It was like wild. It looked like a theme park kind of exhibit kind of thing is how they designed it. It was really cool. But I got my first models there. I think I'm right about the name of the store.
Well, I think, I remember one of the U.S., I don't know if you'd call it a headquarters, but North American Games Day, which was GW's own convention years ago. Mm-hmm. One of the prominent ones was in the Baltimore area. Yeah. And so it just surprises me. And when you consider Washington, D.C., which city center is like 800,000, and then suburbs, Alexandria, all the stuff nearby. You're at 2 million plus, and like, but I'm looking around whenever I've been there, and it's like the miniatures scene. For some reason, there's just not, at least not stores that support it if there are players. So this convention, now it's still growing. This was like their biggest year ever to date, and it began mostly as just a tournament, and it was a charity tournament. I think they still do a lot of charitable stuff. But now seeing it here for the first time in 6 or 7 years, whenever the last time was I went, it's now like half and half.
Well, I think you made it big when Games Workshop actually shows up and sets up a stall in the vendor hall.
Yeah,
because that's where it's like, okay, this is a big enough event now that some real players in the game are showing up to pedal, right? Because I mean, anyone can have a tournament in their backyard and have their friend who runs a store show up and just sell some stuff,
sponsor some stuff,
right?
And
like
sell
that's
it. Yeah,
anyone can do that, but like once you get the attention of actual, like established traded companies.
Well, yeah, because at this one there was Games Workshop, there was Steam Forged, there was Mantic, there was Artis Opus on the hobby side. There were Element, which does the they do the Element, all their stuff, their wet pellets, and
right.
They're that company that tries to reinvent the hobby wheel every year with some new gadget.
Look at this new wet pellet we have. It's good. Yeah. I like the extra
Look at
large
this cup with the tentacles in it, and like, but then even some obscure ones like Nico Galaxy was there. Kaha Katarzyna Gorska was there with her own line of stuff, and
didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah, and
what colors does she sell? What it was like 4 of them?
It was just her line of miniatures.
Oh, miniatures.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's paint. Okay.
Yeah.
We joke. She's a very specific paint style that uses a lot.
Of signature. You can't not recognize
blues
it.
And pinks and stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah, her style is unmistakable. And then there were a number of other vendors there, and Army Painter. Of course, our own friend Dracoya was there with her own booth selling Chimera stuff.
Yeah, you got to sit and paint there for a little bit.
I did.
That's pretty cool.
And so all of these, it's become as much a convention and the Capital Palette Painting Competition is becoming big. There were hundreds of entries. And so now it's become as much a con as it is a tournament, which means I think it can only grow.
Right.
So, the grand tournament, the Warhammer 40k grand tournament, doesn't start till Friday. So there's that whole day Thursday of other stuff happening. Classes are big there now. I don't know how much longer it can stay in that venue until it has to start becoming a real convention.
Oh, man, that's really always the risk. Like, if you had a convention space, like, that's the only thing I would worry about. Is it's like, oh no, how many years left we have of this event being hosted here because they're getting too big.
Well, and thankfully, the hotel they chose is big. It's got 1,100 rooms or so.
So it can house a lot of people, but like the floor space is the issue.
The floor space is the issue. Where to put every class, every seminar, every vendor, and then every demo, because they do a lot of demo games now, which is more, again, a sign of a convention. And then the parking held up, but you're starting to have to go, like, depending on when you got there in the morning, you had to go far and walk. Now, a lot of stuff was in walking distance of this location because it was very central D.C. But great event, great community, great atmosphere. It really just feels like the best part of at least the North American miniature community. And so, but I have to imagine that I think in 2 years, maybe 3,
they're pushing the bounds.
They're going to have to look bigger. Yeah.
I mean, like, we just went through that with Adepticon this year, right? Like, that was the second.
That was the first year in Milwaukee.
First year in Milwaukee, and it felt different. It was an unfamiliar location. It still felt the same. I mean, part of that I think is because I'm going to say they intentionally kept the layout of the
main
room
hall was the same.
Yeah. Partially because it's probably difficult to draw out a layout, right? But I'm going to say it's because they didn't want to disorient the people attending. They wanted to make it feel familiar because we are in a new location. I hope they don't stick to that. I hope they better utilize the space in the years to come. Mostly because I don't think that kind of the way it's designed now is vendor space is very separate from play space, and like I think you can do it better. I think you can lay it out better so you're not having to travel as far to get to the things you want to get to.
Well, and the way they've laid it out at Adepticon for years, both when it was in Schaumburg for so long and then now in the Baird Center in Milwaukee, is like they did that thing where the vendor area splits 2 tournament halls. Usually the Warhammer stuff's on one side, and then the Asmodee or Atomic, whichever one it is, and Star Wars and all that stuff's on the other.
Mm-hmm.
But that actually limits what they can do in terms of the vendors they have.
Right.
And I heard from some people in the know at Nova who are familiar with the Adepticon people and who organize stuff with them that they're trying to get more vendors in because there's more vendors who want to be at that one.
Right.
And if you remember, we talked about this, but Adepticon way back in the day used to feel kind of like how Nova does now. And while the major players were at Nova, Adepticon used to also have a lot of these offshoot, the equivalent then of Kickstarter-style vendors trying to cut their teeth. And they would rent a space at Adepticon where all the miniature stuff's happening, and you could see the coolest things you weren't seeing anywhere else. And that's kind of gone. The last few years, when it was in Schaumburg and now at Milwaukee, it was like only the major players.
Right. There wasn't room for anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, when we got back from Gen Con, we were remarking about how many things were able to show up that you wouldn't have expected.
Yeah.
Right? Like there was tons of, like they've got costume shops, they've got an entire art section, they had board games for kids, multiple stalls for that.
There were people launching their own homebrewed role-playing games. There are entire stalls, not just ChessX, but people who home-make their own dice and people who home-make their own role-playing supplies. And yeah, Gen Con has all of that. And when there's space for obscure vendors, I like that. Mm-hmm. And I think Adepticon, the new place, has enough room for that.
Right. They just didn't take advantage of the new space this year because the layout was familiar. And so there really wasn't room for a lot of extra things. Or if there was, they were tucked somewhere else, right? They were set down the far end by the escalators
on the south half
in
by
the
escalator
hallways,
next to a food stand.
You know, that kind of things. Like I think it could be laid out better than it is. Maybe separate out play areas for from the vendors. So you have all the vendors in one spot and everyone can just shop. Without trying to find a specific thing, I think would be great.
Well, and being a dedicated convention center, I feel like they do have enough space. When we were walking it, it's like, oh, there's tons of space here they could still use. That's why they locked it in for so long.
There's 5 floors,
But circling back to Nova, it was a great event, and I think that one's going to continue to grow. But on the rumor side, where we did get some satisfaction was actually after Nova.
Yep.
Games Workshop on their Warhammer community site released a little silhouette, not so silhouette, that showed, in lieu of the 10th anniversary, here are 4 factions that have stuff upcoming, major releases.
Right.
And they didn't leave it mysterious which 4 factions these were.
I mean, they didn't actually even need to zoom in as much as they did. They should have just showed a model for each army, honestly. Because
in the 4 armies we saw,
the four that we saw were completely obvious, right? Yep. You had Fire Slayers with the new aesthetic, right? Because they had an Underworld warband that had these like obsidian scaled sort of tabard and stuff like that, and it's like that's 100%.
They also looked much more on the like priestly side of
So they were like acolytes instead of being like just
naked warriors or whatever.
Warriors, which I hope that aesthetic kind of goes away a little bit. I like that there's more variation in the newer kit that they released for Warcry, because when you look at the Fire Slayer units on the table, the 10-man units of like berserkers, every single one has the exact same proportions, exact same body, exact same face. Like there are 10 of the exact warriors in different poses. Spread across 60 models, 70 models. It's just the same model in different poses 70 times. And it's just not...
No.
It's not interesting. It's not fun to paint. It's not characterful. So, there were rumors that Fire Slayers were going away. And, like, it's like, if that's where you land and that's where you settle, that's all you want to do with them, I'm glad they're going away. Because this is a waste of this idea.
It is. And it was an AOS specific faction, but the one thing they did every year with them is they kept releasing a character, and the character aesthetic always diverged from just the naked bearded warrior, and then like you said that warband. Well, one of the 4 they showed us in this celebration was clearly something for Fire Slayers, and it is in that newer aesthetic.
Right.
Now it's also a faction that you and I have preached for a long time now.
We
needs more, and so hopefully this will be more than a character. One of them was interesting to me. Has a limited roster and was an AOS exclusive faction in not even drawn from something else, was the Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
So that was picture number 4.
Yeah, it was like bottom right.
It was like a hand or something of holding one of the little
a potion.
The death.
Yeah,
it's like a death rock.
Yeah,
where like they always like emit this like death smoke. So Ossiarch Bone Reapers was another one that's. I mean, if you look at their roster, it's even smaller than Fire Slayers.
It is.
It's bad. So Bone Reapers 100% need an update. They said they are. We also had shown there ogres.
The Maw tribes.
There was a belly plate for the Maw tribes.
Unmistakable.
Yeah.
The Maw.
Yeah. More about that later. But ogres, we were always kind of skeptical. Well, are they sticking with Age of Sigmar? Are they going back to the old world? I mean, the world that they are developing for the old world game is starting to expand to get wider.
It is.
And starting to include more factions. Well, they're getting close, like towards the east, where there are, your Cathay and stuff. Like, ogres were a big opponent for them. So, like, Are they going back to old world? Or are they staying? We had heard again. I don't know if it was confirmed, if it was rumored, if it was conjecture that they were committing to ogres staying in Age of Sigmar.
We wondered.
This, I think, confirms it, right? Good. Now update their aesthetic, give them new models, give them new whatever, tweak it, change it, alter it, whatever you need to do to make them fit. Because we were actually thinking about ogres not really fitting in the Age of Sigmar world very well.
Not under that old the Mongolian Fu Manchu, the come from the Himalayas winter
follows them carrying around looted cannons from the Empire. Like,
it just didn't make sense anymore in the Mortal Realms.
Yeah.
And so if they're getting a big refresh, which we hoped for, awesome. And then the fourth one was Maggotkin of Nurgle, which
when you look at the 4 Chaos Gods, the big ones, they have the most limited roster. I mean, tons of heroes. But
lots of heroes,
So many heroes. I mean, the Maggoth Lord kit makes 3.
It does.
You've got 4 different foot heroes. You've got a cavalry hero. You've got a fly rider hero. You have the Glotkin. You've got 6 heralds or some shit.
2 great and clean ones.
Like it's a lot of heroes, a lot of leadership. But then you look at the units and it's like 6.
Yeah, you have Rotmire Creed, which came from the never again mentioned Warcry. That, by the way, you can't reinforce. They have the Putrid Blight Kings, which are a staple in the army.
It's a cool kit.
But we then sat there thinking about it. It's like, well, that came out in the end times. That's old.
Those were originally on like 32 squares.
Yeah, and
or 40 millimeter squares. Like they were.
And then the motif they showed in that rumored picture was specifically the fly on the shield, which is interesting because I think, as we have talked about, seeing within the Age of Sigmar, as they fleshed out these factions, made the world more real, we now see these divides in them. So instead of everybody having the triple poxmark Nurgle symbol, this symbol of the fly being branded around is just like, I think, when we see Eternus in Slaves, or we see Crethusa in Daughters of Cain, these sub-faction splinters. This might be a sub-faction within Nurgle that maybe doesn't follow everybody the same way. Or it's people, which we've read in the Rotmire Creed lore, follows a specific person, which we'll get to in a second. So these are the 4 they showed off, all rosters that are in desperate need of A, refreshes and expansion, B, expansion. And it sounds like they're coming soon if they're showing us painted images already. So that said, we also have, from the same source of rumors, ideas of what these are supposed to include that maybe are a little too expansive. But
let me see if I can find something about that. I know I was kind of looking up
because some of it sounds very wish listy.
Right. Yeah. So like, I mean, there's always the tendency of when you are kind of saying like, well, what does this faction need, and you list literally everything.
Yeah, you list like you also list like, well, if Games Workshop fulfilled this release, they would get 12 kits, and that's just not happening. That's not
right. I mean, like sometimes it does happen, right? Like with Skaven, they got a lot. With look at the Death refresh, right? When they did the skeletons and whatnot, like
Soulblight and Flesh Eater Courts, their last runs were big.
But even a big run is like, how many kits was it really? 4,
right? And then
it's not huge.
And then do you count each individual hero as a kit? I mean, it's
Yeah, so like it's a little unexpected when you think of like, well, they're going to get 30 updates. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
bullshit.
They're not going to.
You're hoping they get any of these things updated. You just listed everything without whittling down the list at all.
Yeah,
but I mean, when you're talking about 10 plus kits rumored to be updated, that's an army refresh.
That is
right. That's a large update.
That's like what Stormcast and Skaven got to start the edition.
Even when Stormcast got their update for 4th edition, It was only 7.
Yeah.
Like, it was 3 heroes, 4 heroes, and 3 units. It was not a massive update. It was a relatively small update, honestly. Same with Skaven. Rat Ogres, Clan Rats, Storm Vermin, and then like 5 heroes. I mean, then they got, an artillery kit that made 4 things. And they got they got more, but like Stormcast only got 6 or 7 things. It wasn't that much.
But then you also have to think of like, what is realistic? Games Workshop would just lose money if they did 20 kits for an army and released them all at once, because like a store has to buy all those.
Well, also a person would be like, I can't afford to buy 20 kits.
$800 worth of,
maybe multiples. I can't afford that. So you got to trickle it out. You guys, I mean, I think realistically, a handful of things, 5 to 8 things at a time. It's like, well, 8 things, I'll buy 4 or 5 of them,
right, and get the others,
and get the others later,
next tax return or whatever.
But when we look at the rumors for what's going to come out, it does align with a bit of what we had seen from Games Workshop. Right, we had seen ogres are going to be getting a really big refresh.
We heard that, I think, the murmurings even prior to 4.0 dropping.
Yeah. And so when you look at things like, they had the Gorger release for Warcry, right?
They did.
That was the initial thing where we're like, well, maybe they are sticking around.
Those look good too, by the way.
Maybe we'll get that. But when it comes to old army lines, you always think about like, well, look at the oldest kits. What's going to happen with them first? Right? Anything that's in resin or metal or Finecast, which is Games Workshop's version of resin, which is so floppy, and
it was bad.
It was not a good material.
Nope.
It really was not fun to work with. It didn't cut well because it was so flimsy. When you try to cut it, it would just like bend instead.
Or your knife would just go through it.
Or just completely through it.
Yeah.
Like there's no resistance at all.
Yep.
Oof, man, Finecast was rough. And then there was lots of holes and bubbles. And anyway,
it was bad.
Anyway, so you had a handful of things from ogres that were still Finecast even to this day. You had
the man-eaters.
The man-eater unit, which you had to buy individually for like $30 each.
Because they had one with a rolling pin and one with samurai gear.
You had a samurai, you had like a ninja, you had a pirate, you had a very poor taste like guy dressed as a woman
with a rolling
pin. Likely those are all going away.
I think those are probably gone.
But even like core items, you had like frost sabers, right? One of their screening units, still Finecast. They're rumored not to stick around. The Yetis, which we were like, well, what's going to happen with Yetis? Are they going to stick? They don't fit. They don't fit the aesthetic. They don't fit the setting.
You said something that I think is probably true. So it's funny is we're in 4th edition Age of Sigmar technically, but it was really like an alpha, a beta, and 3rd edition was like the first real one.
Yep.
And now I think they have decided what the aesthetic is, and they've drawn all these continents now, and they've drawn all these worlds, and they've written novels, and now I think they know what they want it to look like and how to quote Sigmarize some of these older ranges. Yeah. And I think the modern Maw tribes, they're moving away from the Himalayan snow people.
Yeah, because there's one of their biggest things was this thing called the Everwinter, which was just this ice storm that just followed the tribes wherever they went.
Right.
And it's like, that's nonsense. One of the realms is called the Realm of Fire. How is an ice storm supposed to follow them wherever they go? Yeah. That's a little silly.
And by the way, a lot of action happens on that realm.
Yeah. And so I think we're going to lose a lot of the icy themed stuff, right? So Icebrow Hunter, which was the one with the javelins.
And the crossbow and the patch over his eye, or the bandage over his eye, right? Is that that
so
one?
That's a different one. So there's a newer one that's called it's some other hunter. No, he's like from the realm of beasts. He's got like the dragon head on his hip. There's an old one who's got like a club, Ooga Booga club, and like a javelin.
Oh, I don't know.
An old Finecast one is not a good model. He's got like long hair and like a top knot. It's awful. So the Icebrow Hunter is what he was called. Has always been Finecast. He's not getting updated. You had the Frost Sabers, which were these old saber-toothed tiger-looking things, not being kept.
They looked like they were line drawn in middle school.
Rumor-wise, right? Not being kept. The Firebelly, which was one of their wizards that never fit into any faction.
No, because he had his own faction.
He's like a fire-breathing, like naked, tattooed ogre.
Yeah, he was like a voodoo.
It was weird.
In the ice faction?
I don't get it. It was weird. The Yetis, which were literal Sasquatches with like weapons made out of ice.
In single pose.
Not getting updated.
They had always had one arm way up, one arm way down.
So, but those all make sense, right? Finecast models, they either get updated or they get cut. They're getting cut. But one of the other, the second list of things getting cut, which I think is questionable or weird or interesting choice, is the Lead Belchers,
which were the cannon-wielding infantry.
Which have never had good rules. They never fit. Like I said, they wield like Empire cannons because they've like stolen them, and it's just what Empire? Like it doesn't.
That's not a thing in Age of Sigmar now. Yeah.
So I mean, updating them to be more hunters, more wilds people, more trappers and things like that, using crossbows. One of the rumors, by the way, is there's going to be a new hunter unit that like mimic the aesthetic of
in the last edition, that was the one model they got was a hero hunter with a crossbow and so I could see if they made a unit that benefits from him or
synergizes with. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So lead belchers, maybe this is the replacement. Crossbow wielding hunter unit. The Maw Pot, which was their faction terrain, which was very much an old style like Mongolian barbecue soup pot.
You pick your 5 ingredients and the chef makes it for you.
We had the Maw Pit come out with the Gorgers, which is a much more AOS thematic version of the Maw Pot.
It is.
Though maybe that going away is not a big deal because you've got the pit, that is also an embodiment of the hunger of the ogres, whatever. And then there was a Tyrant model that was released, 2018, 2019, somewhere in there, which was the first ogre update that we had gotten in years. And he was an updated plastic Tyrant with the...
on foot.
He had he had like a sword and a spear.
Yep.
Right, and a big like horned helmet.
Yep.
Cool model. However, I just don't think with the new aesthetic that fits where they want to go. Right? So I think they're likely to come out with a new Tyrant kit that both includes a generic and maybe a named version of it.
Oh, sure.
So you can like have multiple.
Because what's one thing we talked about at the start of this edition that Ogre Maw tribes do not have?
There's zero
a named
unique
character.
Absolutely.
They need people in lore.
So while that kit is newer, newish, 7 years old, 5-7 years old, it still can be replaced. No big deal. I mean, look at the old world, right? They came out with that Beast Lord for the then existing faction of Beasts of Chaos. He was an Age of Sigmar model that
immediately got ported to Old
World. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see the old Tyrant getting either put back in Old World or just going the way of the Dodo and then a new Tyrant coming out.
Yep.
But I think all of the Ogre leadership is due to get updated. So the rumor is a unique Tyrant on a monster.
Oh, yeah.
So that'd be super cool, like a big centerpiece kind of Ogre model. A new unique Butcher model who will be also riding like a chariot or some kind of war machine kind of thing. A new unique man-eater character who kind of mimics the old aesthetics, right, from the man-eater unit. New hunters, which we mentioned, the ranged unit. New Mournfang riders.
By the way, I wouldn't be surprised that hunter unit makes 2 different kinds.
I mean, absolutely could.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A new regular Butcher, a new generic Butcher, and then a new generic Tyrant. New infantry kits for both the Gluttons and the Iron Guts, which are both of their like normal ogres plus elite ogres. And that covers basically the entire line. It isn't everything, but it also isn't expanding the line with those rumors. That's basically saying, hey, we have a replacement for every single thing in your army. But the caveat is like, well, here's the things that we have rumored to be getting, and then more.
Yeah, so what I could see for them specifically, because something like Fire Slayers, which need an expansion, maybe some refresh, they were an AOS creation.
Right.
Ogres were not. So I could actually see them getting something that's pretty big where it's like they'll launch a big box set like they did with Gloomspite Gets.
Right.
Where it's like, here's a refresh on 2...
Yeah, here's your infantry, here's your bulls, here's a ranged unit, here's a generic character on foot, plus a wizard on foot, plus a monster. That's your box set. And then outside of that, it's like, oh, by the way, here's a named character
4 other
centerpiece.
kits. Yeah.
Here's this other thing. Right, it'd be that kind of thing. Here's the box with the book.
I think theirs will be pretty big. I really do.
Right.
And that would be a great commitment to them in Age of Sigmar. Right. Give them much renewed interest. I haven't heard much in the rumors on the Ossiarch Bone Reaper side outside of whatever that one image is.
Correct.
I don't know if you've heard anything that they're expanding.
Unfortunately.
And then now the one that interested us a little bit was Maggotkin of Nurgle. The rumor mill listed, I think, way too many things for them to actually be getting. Yeah. But
I'm kind of confused about their rumors because we've seen before where it's like here's a rumor and then it turns out it's just like this is a box set for a small board game that has this character in it. It's not actually a refresh, right? Because that's also part of the rumors. Is it's not only a rumored box set of a versus, which I didn't think they were going to be doing anymore. I thought they were getting away from the versus, one faction versus another. But there's also rumors of a Warhammer Warhammer Quest box, kind of like Curse City, kind of like the Silver Tower or Shadows over Hammerhall. Is that what it was called? Under Hammerhall. The Warhammer Quest boxes were super cool because they gave you these unique characters and like basically a preview of what updated models in the future are going to look like.
Yeah,
or even, that's where we got our first...
Or even just design team stuff that you can tell they're working on.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we got our first new updated zombie kit for Soul Blights, right? They came out there first. Same with their Skeleton Warriors. They were more, I don't know, kind of Mesopotamia sort of aesthetic or like...
Curved swords, round shields.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Instead of being like... Eastern European, that kind of thing. So that's where we got that first sort of aesthetic from, and then they continued. So there's 2 boxes rumored to be coming, a Versus and then a Warhammer Quest. But some of these rumors for Nurgle could be maybe there's one-offs or a couple, not a full unit in one or the other. Because it's too much to be included in like a box set.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm skeptical is all. Right, like a lot of times the rumors will come out and they say, "I don't really play this game, but here's what I know." And so it's like, so you don't know anything about it, and you're guessing what it is. And but somehow you're seeing these things.
Well, and what we talked about as far as like the going through the genealogy of where the rumor engines came from, right. Where now it's like Spiky Bits, it was Bell Lost Souls, it was Warseer, it was Portent.net if you go way back. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times there were these 2 particular rumor monger guys whose names I won't mention, but they would always open with that. They're like, well, I don't play Warhammer anymore. I don't collect it anymore. But here's what it's like. So how are you getting this information, first of all?
Like, who are you and where are you getting this info?
And now some of it ended up accurate,
right?
But their descriptions were either very, very specific. So, for example, one of them listed the words the Glotkin by name 4 years before it came out.
Right.
So I don't know how they got that, or 3 years before it came out. But then other times it's super vague. It'll say something like, well, if you're familiar with how this army plays, it's not going to change, but you're not going to like it if you're not used to it. It's like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
If you know how to play the game, it's going to feel similar, but it's different. Oh, great. So anyway.
But here is the full list of rumors.
Okay, here we go.
For Nurgle.
Buckle up.
It's a lot. Box set versus Cities of Sigmar, which, I mean, we didn't see anything, but Cities could use an update.
They need an expansion too, sure.
And I'll preface it, actually. Step back from the Maggie Kim real quick. That's another army that has gone through a lot of changes, and they're trying to find their foothold with that army. It was called Free Guild for a long time. It was called Humans.
They weren't even standalone
whatever,
for a while.
And so, like, the fact they're going towards all humans means they're taking out the dwarves, they're taking out the dark elves that are the only ones remaining. And if those units go away, Cities of Sigmar is not a functional army anymore.
No.
Look at any of the recent tournaments. If you are trying to play human side of Cities of Sigmar, your core units that do all the work in your army are the command squads. You spam command squads that include an assassin and a knight and a gargoyle and a medic. Like, that is your core. That's not intentional. Come on. No. That's not how that should be. You don't include any infantry from the army at all.
No free guild guard, no cannons, no nothing.
None of them are good enough.
No.
Well, maybe some cannons, but none of the actual like infantry, like, they're not good enough. Mostly because there's nothing in between their chaff infantry and chaff handgun shooting unit and like the elite stuff, like your heavy knights and your cannons. There's nothing in between there. There needs to be a step in between where it's like, well, here's a cheaper unit that can actually do damage, because steel helms ain't doing it. Steel helms don't do shit. They're like Skaven slaves. They hit 4s and wound them 4s with no round. They don't do anything. That's not hurting anything in the game. Anyway, but when elves and dwarves eventually go, because it's going to happen, they need something in the middle there. Well, the rumor is apparently a Nurgle box versus Cities of Sigmar where they both get updated. I can't tell you what's in the Nurgle box because it's just here's a list of all the things they're getting. The Cities side, they say is going to be more like faith militant. Is what that reminds me of a little bit. So there'll be like a named character, unique marshal, because they only have one character right now, by the way. One named character. That's the girl riding the lion. Oh no, I guess you have the wheel too. The being carried on the palanquin.
Yep.
The whatever the wheel. they're going to bring
Pontifex
Zenestra.
whatever. Yeah.
They're going to bring back war priests.
Okay.
So that sort of priestly side.
Which still exists in the lore.
Yep. They're supposed to have a unit of heavily armored knights on foot. So, like, think the Arch Knight from that command squad, an elite infantry unit on foot, and then either as a new war machine to replace the steam tanks, or as their faction terrain, the Cog Fort. We saw a version of this from
Warhammer Plus,
yeah, where
Hammer
it was
and
like
Bolter.
They were defending against the Dark Oath assault, and there was like a castle, like think like a rook from chess, but with like spider legs, mechanical spider legs that could pick it up and move around.
Yep.
So it was the Cog Fort. So those were the things listed off as like potentially being in that box versus some unknown Nurgle. But the Nurgle rumors are Festus, the Leech Lord, is going to be getting an update.
Which for those wondering, he was a human character turned champion of Nurgle in the old world.
But he was so derpy because he was just like, he mixed potions.
Yeah, he mixed in his
like,
model. Even he's pouring a potion into some unwilling participant's mouth. Yeah. And he was kind of derpy, but his lore has persisted,
right?
Especially in the Warcry side, where it talked about the Rotmire Creed, and they served
a Leech Lord.
The Leech Lord, and that's all they knew. They didn't know what Nurgle was, and that again is that separation between the higher powers and the regular people in the Age of Sigmar and the Mortal Realms that they've expanded upon with these sub-factions, and this might be an entire sub-faction. It's like worshippers or followers of him.
Right.
And
more like the poison and like plague side of Nurgle,
and
as opposed to just like rebirth through decay.
So this rumor is him, but some new version.
Yeah. Bigger than being on foot, some kind of a monstrous mounted centerpiece-y kind of model.
That'd be great.
And then a named Demon Prince of Nurgle.
Oh.
So maybe not a generic kit for a Demon Prince, because we have one, right?
We do.
Not too long ago. But a unique Nurgle Demon Prince, either by unique by name or like unique to Nurgle.
Or just unique
I'm
kit.
unsure.
Yeah.
The Pestigore is coming back, which we had heard rumors of that. So both.
Which we have Zangors and Slangors.
We do.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see all of that expand, by the way.
Yeah.
Now that Beasts of Chaos are out of the picture, it makes room for things like that to become available.
It does.
So Pestigore Shaman plus Pestigores on foot. A new Nurgle Foot Priest, which I think is weird because we already have a Nurgle Foot. Nurgle Cultist unit akin to like, think how like Khorne has Blood Reavers, something like that.
Tzeentch has the Carrick Acolytes.
A Chaos Warrior unit of Nurgle, which either, Chaos Warriors or
Blood Warriors.
Tzeentch has, or Slanesh has the Mirror Guard kind of guys.
The Myrmidon, whatever.
The Sybarite units, the Painbringers and the Twin Souls, whatever. Yep. Or you said like Blood Warriors.
Yeah.
So your basic 2-wound heavy armor.
And this further separates them from Slaves to Darkness.
Yep. And then a heavy mounted cavalry unit, which we've already got the flies, so that seems like, I don't know, a little bit of an overlap.
So they're either rotating those out,
right,
or it could be, if there was an image scene, there might be a hero. Right. Of some kind on a. So the one thing I thought was the Rot Knights in Warhammer Total War.
Right, or think about like the Tamarkin's Horde that from Forge World that actually got cut a while back. You had Kazakh the Befouled, who rode sort of a bigger, I don't know,
Nurgle dog
thing, like maybe something similar to that. I think would work, because then you have differentiated between a big flying cavalry unit and these guys. And maybe it was warriors and not blight kings on a mount, whatever. And then Bile Trolls was another thing that was called out, which I'd like to see large single entity Bile Troll as opposed to like unit.
Well, remember the old, I guess she was for destruction, but the Troll Hag.
Yeah,
like
that.
So if they did a large Bile Troll.
They've got, what do they call them? The cave trolls from Gloomspite gets are single entities, right? You got the unit of Rock Guts, but then you've got like the big Dankhold Troggoth.
Yeah,
he's a big single entity monster, troll.
Unnamed,
something like that, but Nurgle, something akin to that.
Could be,
and then actually a Blight King refresh for the actual guys on foot, because a lot of those models. A lot of the heroes came out in Age of Sigmar that fits the aesthetic, but look at Gutrat Spume and his original. His original Blight King unit, they were all from fantasy. They were on squares.
They were all in the End Times.
Yeah, from the End Times when that was released. So, I could see that getting updated. That makes sense to me. But again, like I said, some of this stuff could absolutely be from a Warhammer Quest box, not from a release proper. Yeah. I'm just not sure all of this is coming in one big release.
No, yeah, and what it could be is whoever, if someone has seen it, what they might have seen was just these models run rounds.
Right.
And so just assumed it's all going to be Age of Sigmar. But it could very well be a chunk is for Quest and not the game proper. Some of it is for, who knows if they are doing a Warcry, if they're going to make more models for it. Some of it could be for that.
Yep.
Some could be a single character and they thought it was a unit. Some could be an Underworld's Warband.
I mean, it could also be clever conversions, too. That tricks people sometimes.
It does. And whatever the case, I think some percentage of that is probably for the game. We know per Games Workshop directly, Maggot can have updates coming.
Right.
They only just showed us a shield. But for me, as someone who collects Maggotkin, that's kind of exciting.
Yep.
I like seeing new stuff. I mean, my wallet doesn't, but that's exciting to me. But the Ossiarch Bone Reapers and the Fire Slayers to me are the mysteries still.
So to wrap up the rest of the rumors that we have, and there's a couple of wild ones that are getting kind of vague. So one of them that I think stuck out tremendously from left field was actually an update for Skaven. They were going to get a new unique character, Assassin.
Really?
Which is weird. That was supposed to be coming.
But is that...
They even gave us a name. His name was Crixit.
Well, you know what's interesting about that is you wanted to see Eshin brought forward into Age of Sigmar because their models are all ancient.
Well, they
gave us a unit.
They gave us that Underworld Warband and then immediately legends them and cut them.
Yeah,
it's like they were so cool.
Well, so this might even be an easy one, a throwaway one. Yeah. They might have a narrative thing coming,
right?
And then they're like, "Here we go, drop."
Interesting idea because the next rumor revolves around a narrative campaign for next year coming.
Okay,
where at the end of the end of the edition campaign.
Okay.
I think it'd be crazy if the edition ended next summer.
Already?
Right?
Yeah. Just started last summer.
That'd be wild. But the rumor is that there's going to be a big shakeup with dwarfs, with a Dwarden, and they're going to get their own new book that will actually be for a new Dwarden faction that a previous rumor may not conflict with, but was worrying people, right? So a previous rumor was that Fire Slayers were not going to get their own book this edition.
Right.
Which is like alarming. Right?
Yeah.
There's no Fire Slayer book this edition. What's going to happen in that faction? Well, there might be a combined dwarf faction that includes maybe the old Dispossessed and Dwarfen Holds and things like that, plus Fire Slayers. And so that's why there's no Fire Slayer book, because it's a different faction entirely.
Yeah, and I could actually see that playing out. I could see that playing out a bit like how Auric War Clans.
Right.
Eventually Ironjaws and the what are the other ones called?
Cruel Boys.
Cruel Boys were combined into one book. Right. I could see them doing that.
Which they do not need to be one book, by the way. They both have big enough armies they could split.
They do.
It's weird.
But instead, you now have 3 ways to play them, each on their own and or combined. Yeah. And if you did that where you all of a sudden were like, well, here's the dwarves that still exist. Here's their subsect of Fire Slayer cult.
Right.
You keep Kharadrons as their own because they're very different. Just like Gloomspite gets are very apart from Auric War Clans. But like, combine those into one. Then all of a sudden they have a really big and the Dwarden could get a new line entirely. I would expect actually they get a new line entirely that doesn't have to be that big of a roster because if it's combined with Fire Slayers, now you have a big roster.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's your heavy armor guys. Here's your quick movers that are feral basically.
Here's your priest cult.
Here's your shooting units.
Smiths. Here's your
all of that. So I think that's a good way to deal with both of them if you're going to keep them both. So, and then that kind of wraps up. Beside. A couple of rumors for not Age of Sigmar, which again I'm a little confused sometimes when they decide which model they designed is going where, because while I think the Chaos Dwarves are cool, I think they would have fit better in the old world because that's where they're from, right? Whereas Cathay feels so much more like they should be around bases and should be in Age of Sigmar.
I know.
There's a couple of rumors of new stuff coming out for the Warriors of Chaos faction for Old World that I would absolutely love to have a unit in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
And it's irritating that it's like they chose, well, we're gonna give you some updates to the Chaos Warriors faction, and they're big cool things that like
long overdue.
By
the way.
And those things are new Chaos Warrior or Marauders. The old Marauder Chaos is awful. So
it's awful. It is.
But Chaos War Mammoth and a Chaos Dragon, which I would love to have had either of those, because how much more functional would the Dark Oath be if they had Dark Oath Marauders riding a giant mammoth as a centerpiece linchpin to the army? You know what I mean? Like, how much cooler would it be if Slaves of Darkness had a big fighty monster that they don't currently really have in the form of a Chaos Dragon, or maybe you cut all the lords riding big cool things. Maybe give us a lord that rides on a dragon now instead of just what's her name?
Well, or just Archaon.
Or just Archaon.
You have Archaon and Abraxia.
That's it.
Yeah.
So like, I would love to have any of that stuff in. Maybe not. We don't need the Marauders, but a mammoth. Or
we
dragon,
just got new Marauders. Yeah.
In Age of Sigmar instead of going to Old World. Anyway, I hope those are wrong.
Well, you know what though? For Age of Sigmar though, I think they're trying to adhere to this lore that the dragons that exist are so far and few between that it's really like you have the named princes,
yeah,
and then they're the few offspring that the cavalry ride for Stormcast. I'm okay with that, but what are the slaves going to get? I don't know.
I know.
I'm all for big cool models. Old world rumors I don't really care. That is a little funny that for now 4 editions we talked about, when are these models going to be updated?
Mm-hmm.
And well, they're getting them just for the game nobody cares about. But
or like just go back on what you were doing and just release them for both factions or both systems.
Yeah.
Whatever. Do that.
Well, speaking of another system, so those 5 new Space Marine characters, I think, have gone up for pre-order.
At least a couple of them were this week.
At least the Raven Lord one and
Raven Lords, the Raven Guard one.
The Raven Guard, the Lord, the Chapter Master guy.
Yep.
So what's interesting is they dropped the rules for them, and what I've noticed about all of them is so far is they're both Vulcan Heston. What's his name?
Ethan Sean,
and then they showed Lysander.
Yep.
And I have to imagine the other 2 are going to be this way. Their rules are so bland that I can only assume this is because the announcement of the next 40k edition's coming, and or a Space Marine Redux, which we had rumors of anyway. Because right now those characters do not much.
Yep.
At least not exciting.
I agree. I'm not excited about any of them. People are still liking Ethan Sean because he does all the things that competitive players want out of a character. You don't fight with it. You just go do objectives. You give out free CPs.
Well, yeah, you hide him in the corner of a building.
It can be hard to hit, so you can go, do.
You hide him. You hide him in the corner of a magic box. Dish out special rules, and score.
So this specific one, he is a lone operative with stealth.
So he's really hard to shoot.
So you can't target him. Yeah. You can't shoot at him. He's also a jump pack, so he's fast. He's also infantry, so he can hide in ruins. And it's like, well, what else do you do? Well, you make these couple of stratagems cost 0 CP when you use them near him. It's like, that is amazing for competitive players.
Oh, it is.
That's
100%.
The guy's a toolbox.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how does he do in combat? It's like, it's irrelevant.
He doesn't fight.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he fights or not.
Most players would wish he cost 20 points less and had no weapons.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, he is being rated very, very highly for that reason. I don't want that from my chapter master. I want him to be
aesthetically, by the way, he's one of the coolest 40k models in a long time. I think there are. You don't even have to convert him. I mean, he is
pre-converted.
I think aesthetically, all 5 of them look good. Yeah. I think he is the winner.
He stands out.
Yeah,
he's what I wish Shrike would have looked like. Honestly,
and I almost think that's what it was originally.
Shrike was kind of boring. It was like this is the first. I think he might have been one of the first Space Marine Primaris Space Marine with jump packs. Period, and the only one that had lightning claws for a long time.
Yeah,
I mean they gave lightning claws to one of the sword brethren,
but he also had 0 bling.
Right, he had nothing. He was just functional.
He just looked like a Phobos Marine with a jump pack.
He looked so similar to his old model.
Yeah,
like. It was just different pose. And so it's like, well, is he really fitting of a chapter master title? He doesn't look like it.
No.
And so this is him being demoted. And I think it's funny what one of Sean's rules is. All the rule is if you include Shrike in the same army, Shrike loses chapter master, gains captain, and loses lone operative. It makes Shrike,
by the way,
worse.
It doesn't reduce his points cost. No, Shrike just gets worse.
Yeah. It's just like, wow, that is fucking bullshit.
So aesthetically, I think what we've seen, by the way, with the plastic Horus Heresy updates, and now these Space Marine characters in 40k getting new models entirely or refreshes if they existed, like Lysander and Heston, they're really separating that aesthetic from those 2 games.
Yep.
These models look great. I like all 5 of them. But again, the rules are so vanilla that I just feel, or they're just a toolbox, which a chapter master you feel like should do more. So, I am gonna guess that, like I said, I think a 40K or at least Space Marine refresh is coming soon, and so they gave them just throwaway kind of
generic rules,
nothing rules for now.
Yeah.
And we'll see that, I guess, when they show off the Khan and then the Iron Hands guy, which I imagine both those are soon. But otherwise, on the 40K side, there's not much that I'm thinking too much about. Imperial Knights got their release.
We have Knights coming up for pre-order.
But they've already modified Knights. They already had to change points cost and.
Next week we're getting the Hellsmiths of Hashut up for pre-order
already.
Yep.
So we had no ETA. Now they're here.
Now they're here next week. So 3 weeks from now they'll be out. We got a bit of a preview for their rules.
So they've got a.
What's my opinion on their rules? It's everything I wish Skaven rules were.
They've got a PowerPoint system.
It's so powerful. We don't know how they generate the PowerPoints. But everything that has kind of showed off, it's like, oh, you kind of do what Skaven do, only more efficiently and just better.
Yeah, but I'm gonna wager without question that the Hellsmiths of Hashut field so many fewer guys than Skaven.
I hope so.
I bet they're going to be elite few.
Yeah.
You know what it reminded me of, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I was thinking of how some version of War Machine, whichever one it was, or what was the other game? Hordes.
Yep.
Where it's like you have these guys who generate points, and then they like spread them out to units when they activate.
You do up your energy, your focus, whatever.
That's what it felt like a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that.
Again, we don't know how they do it yet, but super cool. I imagine the army will come out of the gate strong.
Yeah,
because they want them to move.
Well, it's one of those things where, like I said,
and it's totally new.
It's what I wish everything. I say that it's what I wish the other armies could do, because this army actually got army rules that are impactful. I mean, look at Lumineth, right? We still talk about Lumineth having some of the best faction rules for any faction in
they didn't have a battle tome
in this edition, because it's like, oh, you actually receive rules.
Yeah.
Every other army, it's like you don't get to do anything with your army's rules. The Hellsmiths of Hashut actually have written rules that allow them to do stuff with the book.
A part of their tactics will revolve around their army's rules.
Right, exactly. And a lot of other armies do not have that going on.
Nope.
And so
especially
it's like,
Wave 1 battle tomes.
And so it's kind of weird, right? It feels a little strange. I mean, should I bring up Slaves of Darkness again?
Yeah.
You can pretty much ignore the rules in that book because
you never use them.
Don't do anything.
Their faction terrain, their endless spells, and their Eye of the Gods. It's nothing. You don't even use it.
Yep.
You just rely on the strength of the units to do everything.
Which is why disappointing. That's what I'm wish listing. We get it's kind of an update to some of that stuff. Once all the books are kind of coming out and stuff, they give a revisit to some of the earlier.
Well, it makes me wonder if the rumors are true that someone I heard, and this could be a far flung rumor, because Horus Heresy only went 2 years before they cycled a new edition. Blood Bowl only went like 2 years before they cycled a new edition, because that's coming now. They just announced that the Bretonnian and Nehekarans are in the new. Which those models look cool. But someone rumored that they're going to move from 3-year cycles to 2-year, but at the same time they claim that each new edition will now no longer be as groundbreaking. It will be more like, here's how we adjust everybody to be more in balance, kind of thing. So instead of calling it a hard new edition, it's like a patch or a DLC.
It still gives you an excuse to release new books for every army.
It does.
That's the least favorite part.
It's the least desirable part of their system is the books.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of Blood Bowl, I dabbled a little bit.
Oh.
Myself and when I was working at Nova and another individual, we just decided we were going to pick up some teams, and because the models are pretty cool.
They are.
The plastic ones. We're going to pick them up, we're going to paint them up, and then we're going to just play some games to get used to it because the game is quick. Yep. You and I demoed it 1 year at Gen Con.
Yeah, it's an easy game. Once you get the hang of
And I know.
Yeah.
There's a competitive league system and all that, and I was like, and I don't care.
That's not the interesting part of that game, in my opinion.
I don't care.
The interesting part of that game is just seeing how badly things go wrong.
Yeah,
because that's the most fun. It's like your guy could slip and fall down trying to run too fast and die.
Yep. And
he could be pushed into the crowd, and the crowd murders him.
So the game. It's funny is the game is a mix between 4 things, and I think this covers it all. So obviously, it mixes rugby with American football, with Mad Max, with the Roman Coliseum. That's the four things. Okay. And it's all in one.
Yeah.
And it's nonstop. It's like you don't really run plays. The ball's just constantly bouncing around doing stuff.
Right.
And
once you score, you set back up in the center.
Yeah.
You know, and then you receive a kickoff. But you're right. You don't set up like you just play from where the ball is, and it's a turnover, and you just
And again, I've looked at leagues and everything, and there's like all these but it's also RPG-ish, like because your team progresses and you can you earn money and you can buy special referees, you can buy star players. But aside from that, what this friend of ours and I did is we just each bought one team, and we bought the Gotrek and Felix referees.
Okay.
We just bought that to start, and we just want to play the games and get used to it because it looks like fun. And now a new edition's coming out, perfect timing. But also, I think on the hobby side, there's a chance with something small like that, or like we talked about 2 weeks ago with Kill Team or Warcry or Underworlds, where because it's such a small collection of miniatures, you can really go in on the painting and conversion side and make them your own.
Yeah.
You had your idea, and then I'll get back on topic here, about, hey, I want to make tons of different regiments of renown that I can play at any time, and I'm going to convert them to be rats no matter what, because it just has to be on the right base size. And a guy I was working with at Nova is also an immense Skaven fan, and he brought all these models, and it was the same thing where he was like, I try to convert everything into rat ogres.
That mother...
Yeah, or vice versa, or he takes a rat ogre and makes it into something else.
Sure.
And it was like, and then again, people kept coming up to the booth and asking, like, do you sell rats of any kind? And I think that's great, and I think in Blood Bowl, it's another opportunity like that where it's like, you know what, I've only got 10 models on this team. I can really make them nice and not rush through because I'm trying to paint 2,000 points. I don't think Warhammer 40k or Age of Sigmar proper, or even Horus Heresy, are ever really going to die, but I think these small skirmish games are really drawing a lot of people now to the hobby because they can take their time and make 10 models or whatever look super nice.
It's such a small commitment. Right?
It is.
For like, this is all I need to play. I can do that.
And you can really push it to where it's like, okay, my painting style, I can't do 120 models, but you know what? 10 or 20? Yeah, I can really push and go for it. Eric Swinson, who even the Europeans regard as one of the best painters in the world, everybody knows him. He plays Kill Team, and he specifically has two things. He has the Scouts, who I guess are one of the worst factions in the game, and then he has the actual Death Watch.
Which one of the best factions in the game?
One of the best factions. And his Death Watch team was on display at the Artis Opus booth at Nova. So I got to see him in person. And that's what he really enjoys. Even though he paints busts and scale figures a lot, he really enjoys when he plays a game small scale like that where he can really make them look nice. Because nothing makes you more proud than when it's like nicely painted versus they're just painted.
Right.
And I think any of us who... like myself, who was like a painter first and a gamer second, and so you'd sit there looking at your pile of gray shame, resin or plastic, and you don't have any of it painted because you know what you want to do, but you know it's going to take a lot of time, and then it's overwhelming. And like with my Tyranids, I started to find, but I think when you really enjoy the painting process and making something look good, those skirmish games, those small scale games become so attractive. So the Blood Bowl team I actually picked up, I know it's not your thing, were the Chaos Dwarves.
Okay.
Now, we were also each going to buy...
They were pretty recently released, though.
They were.
So it's like...
The kit looks great.
I get it.
And I think Runic grabbed one, and then Dracoya grabbed the regular dwarves. But we were going to each also get star players, but they didn't really have those because those are Forge Worldy.
Yeah, they're resin.
So it's not a star player, but it's a unique unit for the Chaos Dwarves. The Bull Centaurs they actually have on the team. They're hard to get right now. They're out all the time. They look great though. But I was looking at them and it was like, stuff I want to work on painting wise. These are little guys on 25 mil bases. I could hammer these out, but still make them look really good. That to me, as the hobbyist who also tries to get in, the painter who also tries to play some games, I think that's super attractive. And I know you have not only every army that exists for every game ever, but I think you started to also get some stuff for some smaller things like War Crow, War Machine, War Cry, and so I think some War Machine stuff you got, right?
I like the idea of smaller scale games. It's hard to convince people to play smaller scale games with you that aren't like board game competitive.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Because
people want like, well, if I'm going to spend the time to play, I'm going to play a big game. It's like, but they're no fun. right? Like, I don't say no fun. They're less fun to me.
Yeah, Age of Sigmar and 40K are fun to me, but the idea of transporting that amount of models,
assembling that many models, getting them painted, transporting them, coming up with a list,
hoping they don't break when transport,
right,
and then you got to set up and play for 3 hours and then tear it all back down. Even if you don't get it painted, it is hard. Whereas bringing one case that you can carry,
a lunchbox,
your 10 guys or
right.
12 guys, like that is attractive. And then the fact you can convert them because it's a little RPG-ish with things like Kill Team, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, and then just kind of paint them to the nines at your own leisure. I think that's super attractive.
100%. Yeah, and I picked up a bunch of Warcrow stuff from the Corvus Belli booth.
Yep. They were there too, by the way, I think. Anyway.
I'm surprised, but not surprised.
Or at least demos were there, yeah.
Okay. But I picked up the event exclusive one at Gen Con.
That's a cool model.
Which again, it's the picture on the box, which I have right here, makes.
Oh no, that's not Warcrow. That's War Machine.
War Machine. I picked up War Machine too.
Oh yeah, okay.
But the picture on the box of the caster plus the monster that goes with him makes it look like the monster is enormous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, look how big he is. Look how small that little caster is. Holy crap, he's huge. They're about the same height.
Yeah.
Here, let me pull him out. Look how big that caster is.
So he's actually bigger than I thought. And we'll put a picture up for you to look at.
Look how tiny the monster is. Like, what deceptive...
Yeah, wow.
Like even the painted ones on the back, like, the scale is just not what was provided in the box.
No.
And so the monster is just... I don't know. It feels tiny.
So the monster's almost actual size to picture, whereas the caster's way bigger.
Yeah, the caster's like 3 times as big as the picture. Isn't that wild how they did that? I mean, that was Sons of Behemoth. Remember when they came out and the Mega Garment was supposed to be like twice the size of a normal it was
supposed to be as tall as Archaon's model, and it's not.
Like not even close. So I was a little disappointed by that kind of deceptive scaling. You know,
it happens.
But I get them together, and they still look good. But it's just like, well,
that'll be neat though, because you're not fully committed to War Machine. But I think if you just took those 2 models, painted them up real nice, and like,
well, I've also got another event model from last year, plus his dedicated Jack Magnus.
Oh yeah.
One. So I got those as well that I can paint. And I've got a few other like Khador models that I picked up that I could paint those too. I liked the idea of the Khador Centurions. They have like these big like robotic suits with like guns and chain swords and stuff on them, chain blades and buzz saws and stuff like that. So I've got some stuff from that, but again, I feel like War Machine is a smaller scale game.
A little bit,
because it's like you're talking like 15 to 20 models.
I think this edition under Steamforge is. I remember in parts of Mark II where that was always one of the. It was funny is like the War Machine crowd and the 40K crowd always were bitter towards each other for some reason because they were competing on the tournament scene, right? And one of the arguments of the War Machine players was always like, but you need so many less models to play War Machine. And then like even Bella Lost Souls, which were perpetual GW haters, did this breakdown of what the average cost is to play the games. And while Warhammer Fantasy had died at the time, that one held the spot as the most expensive because you needed bricks of 80 and all
I mean,
that.
how many fucking, if you're playing vampire counts, how many zombies or skeletons?
200,
per unit.
Yeah.
Per unit.
And but when they got to War Machine and on a per model basis, and to get a fully playable, what was it, a 30 point, I don't know what the system was.
75, something like that.
For a tournament game, it was the most expensive game by a lot. And a lot of their stuff was metal, scaled weird, on bases that were too small. Now, however, I feel like they've scaled it back down a little bit in terms of how many models you need. Most of them are now plastic.
Yep.
And so...
Well, so it's a mixed bag at the moment. Because the newer models they're doing are plastic, and they're actually even on sprues.
Yeah. But
any of the stuff that was made pre-Steamforge that Privateer Press made using they were talking about 3D printing it all of that stuff is still being sold by Steamforge until I assume they get rid of it.
Probably until they sell out.
So they get out of stock. But it's all the weird layer lined, 3D printed. Most of the models I had from one box that I got were no assembly. They were just 3D printed, like static model. And
talk about
like the
monopose.
one command squad I got was like 5 models, and it was $100. Like that's a lot. That's an expensive kit.
It is very expensive.
And they weren't like, but they were huge, right? It's like
nope.
They were kind of like Terminator sized. If you're familiar with 40K, they were about the size of Terminators. 5 models for $100. It's like
40K is not even that expensive. Yeah.
This 3D printing was supposed to be a cost savings method to produce these models because there's so little production necessary.
Yep.
Using a 3D printer, you're not using molding, you're not,
you're not casting them.
Exactly. You 3D design these and you print them with a 3D printer. Why are they $20 a piece? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts. Come on.
And even now, when they do their event releases where they're running a quote special, not even on early release stuff, but it's like, hey, if you get this starter box at this con, we'll give you a special. And then I looked at it and it was one caster and one unit of guys, $160.
Right.
It was like, whoa.
Yeah,
what?
It's a lot. So I think part of it is Steamforge wanting to recoup some of their money that they got from buying War Machine.
That could be. Yeah.
But it's like, your pricing is way too high for me to want to play this game, let alone buy more than one army. That being said, the old Umbri starter box is pretty appealing. I think it's really, really cool because it's all witches and werewolves.
I'll say this though, not counting the stuff that's legacy from Privateer, the new stuff that Steamforge has put out, whether those were files Privateer had and never got around to, or Steamforge designed them themselves, I don't know. I like the look of their new stuff, and even though they're expensive, I always prefer the plastics to the anything else. But again, needing fewer models makes any game appealing for someone who doesn't have as much time to play the games.
Right.
I don't know when the next time, if ever, I'm going to play a tournament game or go to a tournament and play a 2,000-point game of 40K. I'm more likely to do a 2,000-point tournament of Age of Sigmar because that needs less models than 40K typically, and the games are faster. But these skirmish games are really appealing when you just need something short, or you got a game night with friends.
I mean, it's part of the thing is I want to run these older rule sets for Mordheim, right?
Yeah.
Run a Mordheim set in the Mortal Realms, so we can use modern models. You don't have to run the old.
I've heard
Witch
a
Hunter
distant rumor, by the way, that in addition that the specialist game to Old World besides Blood Bowl, the other one will be. They'll do a new edition of Mordheim.
That'd be cool.
I've heard that
because
the city was around in the setting that they're doing.
I mean, but it's. I want to use the rule set. I don't necessarily. I'm not necessarily attached to the setting. You know what I mean? So you can run it. If I'm trying to attract players to
that's actually kind of like Kill Team and Warcry, though. Mordheim is.
A little bit. I mean, it's more. It's more granular than that, though, because it is campaign style. It's tracking stats and experiences.
Necromunda's like that.
And tracking wounds and tracking your gear and paying incremental points to upgrade your stuff and territories and things like that. So it's a little more in-depth in the paperwork outside of the game, but I like that because that makes the player invest in the actual models that they spent so long putting together and painting. Right? If I need to spend as little time as possible painting 30 infantry guys to go to a 2,000-point game just because they're going to get killed and so clear the board after they die, I'm not putting a lot of interest into each individual model. I just need to get them done. But if I'm painting 5 to 10 guys, each one has a name, and I know what their inventory looks like and how much experience they have, and when they lose an eye, I mark that. I'm keeping track of them personally. I care more about the paint job I give them and how much time I'm spending on preparing that model. You know what I mean?
Well, it
makes it feel worth it.
That I think that is right in line with what this whole topic has been. Is because Necromunda does that, Blood Bowl does it. You keep track of the stuff as it goes on.
Yep.
And I don't know if Kill Team does. I don't think it does. But you still only have your one unit of guys. I think with that, where each one's an individual person. Mm-hmm. So you can make them look how you want, and then you spend that time painting them nicer than when you're just getting an army done because you got to get it done.
Right.
I think that is super appealing to the hobbyist. That gets me motivated to have stuff ready for a game if I want to. Those types of games are also ones that if you do game nights with friends, you can have weeks where you do a role-playing game, weeks where you do a board game, and then weeks where it's like, hey, let's play Warcry, let's play Necromunda, let's play Blood Bowl, let's play. I don't know, that because those are quick. Yeah. And you got these nice looking models that you painted. Yeah.
I was like, hey, this is the first time we're doing it in 2 weeks. Get a team ready. I got to scramble to get a team ready. And you're like, 10 models.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's much more on a...
And not even you're not doing competition level, but just making them look that nicer, couple extra steps.
Yeah.
That's fun as the painter. It really is. And it's relaxing. If you're used to doing display or competition level pieces, or you're used to teaching classes, all of which are things that I'm kind of doing more coming soon, is like now you get to like relax, if that's the right word, and just do the things that push.
I mean, also if it like
tabletop.
if it doesn't turn out, like, oh well.
Yeah.
That's another thing is you can try stuff and it's like, oh, that didn't really work. But it's like, okay, it's one model
for a game,
right?
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know. You're right. The pressure's off. It's not trying to impress. It's not trying to like, well, I got to paint 100 models to all to the same standard for this tournament. It's like that's unnecessary stress in my mind. You know. I don't know.
And I'm not trying to appease judges with this one or get it ready for competition that's online or making it look great for the gram. It's like these 5 or 10 models, I can just do what I would do to tabletop and then push it up and down, push it in each direction to be just better.
And just push it real good. Yeah.
Yep. Yes. And that is like, that is relaxing because you get to be kind of free form and do some exaggeration shortcuts, but still make them look nicer. That is rewarding. Having a fully painted anything as far as play always looks better, but then when it's a team like that, it's easier to get to that goal and enjoy every piece.
I mean, I also like the idea is you can do something completely different, right? Because it's like when I do an army, it's like, well, I got to settle on a color scheme
for 100 models.
Do it for the entire army. Whereas this is like, well, this team is called what? You know, okay, well, what color will they be? I'm going to make this team orange. Their jerseys are orange.
Yep.
You know, like I painted them. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I don't need to continue it because my team is done. They're finished.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to participate in or continue to paint that color scheme on
over
90
and
more
over
models
and
that
over.
I actually like not a fan of. So I don't know. It's that kind of thing to me. It's like it's small projects, it's small chunks, start to finish. It's a small investment. It's both money and time and and effort. I think that's the most appealing part. So yeah.
And it's something that keeps you going at the hobby desk. Like people wait for motivation to happen or inspiration to happen, and it usually won't. So giving yourself something to change it up, change up what you're doing. Because let's say you're working on a piece for content or for a competition, and you are doing this meticulous process, and you have to refine it. That can burn you out. And so it's like having this other thing to go to where it's like, well, I want to do this for the game, and I want it to look this wacky color scheme, but I still want it to look nicer than if I'm painting an army. Mm-hmm. That's a really nice way to shake up what you're doing without taking too much time. I think that's important for the painter to always stay interested in what they're doing. Yep. That's it. That was all I had to say about that one.
All right. And that's all I have to say about that.
That's all I have to say about that.
Forrest Gump. Right? That's that from? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think they'll make a miniature game based on that?
I mean, he was a shrimp farmer, right?
He did that.
He was a shrimp man.
He also was a ping pong champion. Played football.
Yeah. But speaking of shrimp, I could eat.
I could eat a bucket of shrimp.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. We hope you enjoyed. Follow us for more of our weekly episodes on YouTube podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. You can follow myself and Llama on Instagram. We are at Llama Paints Minis and Hyena Paints Minis. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. And as always, we'll catch you next time.